Morning sunlight crept through the dusty blinds of Daniel Hayes's apartment, painting thin lines of gold across the floor. The room was nearly empty, a worn-out couch, a small table, and a few medals resting beside an old photograph. In the picture, Daniel stood shoulder to shoulder with his platoon, smiling beneath the blazing desert sun. Most of those faces were gone now. The shrill whistle of the kettle snapped him out of his thoughts. He poured himself a cup of coffee, the steam curling like ghostly smoke. He hadn't slept much. He never did. Every time his eyes closed, the past found him again. The gunfire, the explosions, the shouts for help that never came. Sometimes he woke up drenched in sweat, gripping the sheets as if they were his rifle. He ran his fingers across the medals, their cold metal pressing against the scars on his hands. People called them honors. To Daniel, they were reminders of friends buried far away, of promises broken, of a war that still echoed in his mind long after it ended. Later that day, Daniel sat alone in a corner of a small cafe downtown. Around him, people laughed, talked, and scrolled through their phones, the normal rhythm of life he had once fought to protect. He watched a little boy outside playing with a toy airplane, spinning and laughing as if the world had no weight. Daniel smiled faintly, then froze. In an instant, the boy's laughter was drowned by the roar of helicopter blades in his memory. Sand, heat, gunfire in his body tensed. His hand shook slightly and the coffee cup slipped from his grasp, spilling across the table. The sound jolted him back to the present. A waitress hurried over. He apologized quietly, forcing a smile to hide the storm raging inside him. He spent evenings at the local veterans clinic, attending counseling sessions with others who bore the same invisible wounds. The doctor told him he was improving, that recovery took time. Daniel nodded, but deep down he knew healing wasn't measured in weeks or therapy sessions. It was measured in nights survived, in breaths taken between memories that refused to fade. When he returned home, the apartment was silent again. He lit a single candle and placed it beside the photo of his fallen brothers. Their faces glowed softly in the flickering light. He whispered their names one by one, his voice barely a breath. "You made the ultimate sacrifice," he murmured. "I just came home." He sat there for a long time, staring at the candlelight until it burned low. The room dimmed, shadows stretched, and his reflection in the window looked like a stranger. Somewhere deep inside, he felt a hollow ache, not of fear, but of purpose lost. When the flame finally went out, Daniel whispered to the darkness, "I wish I knew what to do with the life they gave me." And in that silence, something in him stirred, a quiet pull toward a meaning he had yet to find. Days slipped into weeks, and Daniel's life followed the same quiet rhythm. Wake up, visit the clinic, take long walks through the park, return to the same empty apartment. The world outside kept moving forward, but Daniel felt stuck somewhere between the past and the present. He moved through the city like a ghost no one could see. One cold afternoon, gray clouds hung low over the streets. Daniel was walking home from the Veterans Center when he noticed a small figure sitting beside a grocery store. A boy, no older than 10, holding a cardboard sign that read, "Hungry. Please help." Next to him sat a woman wrapped in a worn shawl, her tired eyes fixed on the pavement. The boy looked up at Daniel and managed a faint, polite smile. Something about that smile hit Daniel like a memory, a flash of dusty villages overseas, children watching soldiers pass by, their faces marked by hunger and fear. He stood there, frozen for a moment. Then, without thinking, he stepped into the store. When he came out, he handed the boy a warm sandwich, a bottle of water, and a chocolate bar. The boy's eyes lit up as he took the food. His mother whispered a shaky "thank you," her voice trembling between exhaustion and relief. Daniel nodded awkwardly, unsure what to say. He wasn't used to gratitude anymore. As he walked away, the sound of the boy unwrapping the chocolate echoed in his mind. For the first time in years, something inside him felt lighter, like a thread of warmth piercing through a long, cold fog. That night, back at his apartment, he sat in silence again, but this time the silence didn't feel as heavy. The candle he lit beside his friend's photo flickered softly. "I saw a kid today," he whispered to them. He smiled even though he had nothing. Maybe that's what courage looks like now. Over the next few days, Daniel found himself noticing things he used to overlook. an elderly man struggling to carry groceries, a neighbor fixing a broken door with borrowed tools, a stray dog limping near the park. He started helping, small gestures at first, quiet and simple. He carried bags, repaired things, shared his leftover food with the dog. It wasn't about pity or charity. It was something deeper, a slow rediscovery of purpose. The more he helped, the less trapped he felt by his memories. Each act was like stitching a small tear in a soul long ripped apart by war. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops, Daniel returned to the grocery store. The woman and her son were gone, but their spot was empty and clean. A single scrap of cardboard lay there, folded neatly, with 2 words written in shaky handwriting. "Thank you." He picked it up and smiled. It wasn't much, just cardboard and ink, but it felt heavier than any metal he'd ever worn. That night, as he placed the note beside his old war photo, Daniel realized something simple yet profound. Maybe his purpose wasn't to forget the war. Maybe it was to use what he'd learned from it, the strength, the empathy, the survival, to fight a different kind of battle. Not against enemies, but against suffering, against despair. And though he didn't know it yet, this small act of kindness was only the beginning of something far greater, something that would soon touch the lives of everyone around him. Winter came quietly that year. The first snow fell like soft ash over the town, covering cracked sidewalks and empty benches in a fragile white calm. Daniel had grown used to walking those streets every morning, gloves in his pocket, his jacket zipped up to the collar. He'd started volunteering at a small community center nearby, fixing shelves, serving soup, sweeping floors when the staff was short-handed. He never asked for recognition. It wasn't about being noticed. It was about feeling useful again, about giving meaning to days that once felt endless. One morning, while repairing a leaky pipe in the shelter's basement, Daniel overheard 2 women talking upstairs. Their voices were low but filled with worry. "They're evicting her next week," one said. "She's got 2 kids. Her husband, he didn't come back from the war." Daniel froze. He set down his wrench and listened. The name sounded familiar, Maria Jenkins. He remembered her husband, Corporal Tom Jenkins, from his unit. They'd served together in the desert. Tom had been one of the good ones, always smiling, always talking about his family back home, and now, that family was about to lose their home. That night, Daniel sat at his small table, the eviction notice replaying in his mind. He opened his wallet and stared at the few $100s he had saved from his pension. It wasn't much, but to Maria and her children it could mean everything. The next day, Daniel visited their neighborhood. It was a small, run-down apartment building on the edge of town. He saw the 2 children playing in the snow. Their laughter carried through the cold air, raw and pure. Maria was outside too, sweeping the porch. She looked tired, older than her years, her eyes carrying that same quiet grief Daniel knew too well. He didn't approach her. Instead, he went straight to the landlord's office. When the man behind the desk looked up, Daniel said simply, "How much does she owe?" The landlord hesitated, then named a figure. Daniel took out his checkbook, signed it, and slid it across the desk. "Keep my name off it," he said. "Just tell her the balance is cleared, that was it." No speeches, no explanations, just a silent act of kindness. One soldier taking care of another's family. Days passed. The snow thickened. When Daniel returned to the community center the following week, he found Maria there serving food to the homeless. She smiled more easily now, her face lighter. He overheard her telling someone, "I don't know who helped us. A stranger, I guess. But whoever they are, they gave us a second chance." Daniel said nothing. He just smiled quietly to himself and went back to fixing a broken chair. Word of his quiet generosity spread through the town, though no one knew for certain who the mysterious benefactor was. Some said it was a church donor, others guessed a local businessman. Daniel never confirmed or denied it. He simply kept doing what he always did, helping where he could, asking for nothing in return. He started spending his weekends delivering food to elderly neighbors, organizing supplies for veterans in need, and mentoring young volunteers who looked up to him. The once isolated soldier had become a quiet force of good, a reminder that even the smallest acts could heal the deepest wounds. But one afternoon, as he was locking up the community center, Maria approached him. Her eyes were soft, her voice trembling. "I know it was you, Daniel," she said. Tom used to talk about you all the time. He said you were the kind of man who never left anyone behind." Daniel tried to speak, but his voice caught. She placed a hand on his arm. "You didn't just save our home," she whispered. "You saved me." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The snow kept falling, covering everything in a quiet white peace.